Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision. No one else can make me forgive. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down the road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down the road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. My decision right here and now.
Thank you, Anne. That was absolutely beautiful. Love is my decision. I love that song, and especially now, right? Especially now, love is our decision. So that was a beautiful beginning to our service, and we appreciate you greatly. And welcome everyone, whether you're here in the sanctuary this morning or whether you're watching from the comfort and safety of your own home. We are all together. We are all one, and we are so grateful to have you be part of this service. We know and affirm that every single one of you is bringing something unique and wonderful to this spiritual community. And it is our fervent prayer that you are taking something equally unique and wonderful away. And I want to especially thank our greeters and ushers who are doing such an amazing job of keeping us all safe and 6 feet apart. Would you raise your hand if you're in that group, and would everyone give them them a hand, please. Thank you. And I'm still working, actually, but we appreciate you very much. And we do want to also thank our two videographers who switched places today. So we have Kathy Boyd on the floor and Dennis Reese upstairs. So thank you for being here and thank you for doing your amazing work. And I know that everybody is committed today to taking every precaution we can for our own safety. Please stay 6 feet apart, wear your mask above your nose unless you have some medical reason not to. And when we dismiss, the ushers dismiss you, sadly, please go directly to your cars. And we'll just envision that time that we're all going to be downstairs in love and laughter together. So that's the vision we're going to hold. Thank you. And I also want to thank, I see Lisa Armbruster here, Lisa and her crew. I'm not sure who they were, but if there's anybody here who helped Lisa, I drove up this morning and the front looks beautiful. They did a day of weeding, so thank Lisa. Lisa, wait. Thank you so much. Lisa also is the one who's doing our beautiful downstairs garden, which I know you're not getting to see right now, but trust me, it's still beautiful, okay? A couple of brief announcements. First of all, the youth ed teachers need to remind you that they are collecting school supplies. There's a bin in the lobby. They'll be doing that through the end of August, but this is the tax-free weekend. So if you haven't already purchased your school supplies, this would be a really good time to do that. And then also, certainly we've had to cancel and postpone and put off lots of things on our calendar at First Unity, but there's one thing we're going to be able to do, and that is to participate in World Day of Prayer. World Day of Prayer is Thursday, September 10th. All the activities at the village are virtual this year, so you can watch everything from the safety of your home if you would like. Just Google Unity World Day of Prayer 2020 and you'll get all the information. The theme this year is a very appropriate one. It's from fear to faith. What a great theme. And our sanctuary will be open from 8 in the morning till 7 p.m. because the numbers allow us to do this. The chaplains will be on duty all day long, so you can come in and just pray and meditate. You can pray with the chaplain. We'll have some affirmations for you. And at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, all the way through, we will be doing a silent unity prayer service. So I hope everybody who wants to will come for that. As you leave today, at the table and also outside, there'll be a prayer request form that you can take with you, fill it in at home, and bring it back, and we'll have a place for you to put it next week. Prayer chaplains will be praying with you all day with your prayer requests, and then at the end of the day, we send them to Silent Unity, and they hold them in prayer for 30 days. So more information about that on the website and Facebook page. Mary Ann, did I forget anything? Okay, great. So now, speaking of Mary, I'd like to introduce our prayer chaplain for today, and also, while she's coming up, just thank all the prayer chaplains for your amazing work during this time. So Mary Tuminello will do the daily word and talk to you about praying afterward if you want to. Mary?
Good morning. My name is Mary Tuminello, and along with Lance Bob, we will have the privilege of being your prayer chaplains today. We will meet you over in the corners now. Each one of us will be over there, and please come pray with us if you have any happy things or things in need. And as always, all prayers will be kept confidential. If you want to pray when you're being released, just tell the usher that you want to stay in your seat. And then when people are all released, you're welcome to walk over to one of us. Okay? Our prayer word today is appreciation. I am grateful for the good in my life. Would you all like to repeat that with me? I am grateful for the good in my life. Today I take time to appreciate the abundance that surrounds me. I notice the beauty of the natural world, the talent and dedication behind the music and art I enjoy, and the skill and commitment of the people who work to maintain a safe and orderly world. The more I focus on my attention on everything I have to appreciate in my life, the more I noticed even more blessings. I am eager to share the gift of appreciation, so I give my full attention to someone I care about as we share a meal, or a favorite activity, or simply quiet moment together. Feeling grateful for my life's blessings, I feel renewed, appreciated for the love and beauty that enriches my life. And from Luke chapter 10, verse 23, then turning to the disciples, Jesus said to them privately, "Blessed are the eyes that see what you see." Let us pray. Dear sweet Spirit, we are so grateful and appreciative for our church being open and for us to be able to come together. Right now in our world, we may feel like it's all turned upside down. But let each one of us take a deep breath and be reminded of all the blessings that we do have. Let us remember and appreciate all the good and not turn towards the negativity. With this moment, with this thinking, with this knowing, we will all travel a path to a perfect outcome. We are so grateful for this knowledge, because with it all things are possible. And so it is.
So, over the past few weeks, we've been exploring wholehearted living, defined by researcher Brene Brown as engaging in our lives from a sense of worthiness, cultivating courage, compassion, connection, love, belonging, and being enough. Now, all this sounds great in theory, but in our human skins, too often we listen to our negative self-talk, telling us we are less than, not enough, and unworthy. In this mindset, we create barriers that block us from living from our divine essence. Reverend Jim Rosemergy writes in the book The Gathering, "It is as though we move through life with a coat that has an exquisite diamond sewn into the seam. We have all we need to live a fulfilling, abundant life, but we are unaware of our treasure. If we are in any kind of limitation," Rosemergy says, "it's not because spirit withholds itself from us. It is that we have built barriers that shield us from the possibilities of what can be." You know, it's been said that spiritual growth is more, and that's one of Uni's core values, right? Spiritual growth is more about subtraction than it is addition. Because really, there's nothing to add to us. We are whole and complete just as we are. There may, however, be some attitudes and barriers that we have constructed and we need to release. And guess what is suggested as the greatest barrier of all? Any ideas? The chaplain should know this. We're studying the book The Gathering. It is unforgiveness. Jim Rosemergy writes, "Please know that unforgiveness is the most prevalent barrier to the experience of the presence of God. We justify our anger and it becomes resentment. It is fed long enough by hurtful memories, thoughts of revenge, acts of retaliation, and it grows into hatred. And a hate-filled soul cannot feel God's love. We may strike out at another person or situation, but our hands are really around our own throats, restricting our ability to breathe love, peace, and creativity into our world." Now, there's a story that really exemplifies this, and I know many of you know it. It's about Leonardo da Vinci, one of the best stories about forgiveness that I know. As he was painting The Last Supper, as the story goes, da Vinci had a bitter argument with a fellow painter, which led to his completely despising the man. Da Vinci decided, as an act of revenge, to paint his enemy's face as the face of Judas. He took great delight in painting the face, knowing that everyone who recognized it would know that it was his bitter enemy, and that his bitter enemy would be immortalized forever as the one who betrayed Jesus. So as he worked on the faces of the 12 disciples, he tried again and again to paint the face of Jesus, and he was just unable to get it right. It just would not come together for him. Frustrated and confused, finally he decided what was wrong. He realized what was wrong. His hatred for the other painter and the ugliness of his deed were actually blocking his creative flow, blocking his ability to finish the face of Jesus. He forgave his enemy, and that very night, in his dreams, the face of Jesus came to him. And the very next day, he completed his masterpiece. Now, honestly, I don't know if that story really happened or not, but I do know it holds great truths about the power of forgiveness. Because not only does holding resentment block us from the truth of who we are, but the bitterness damages the heart and body as well as the soul. Medical and psychological studies reveal that anger and resentment can cause anxiety, depression, heart disease, high blood pressure, ulcers, migraines, backaches, and even cancer, to name a few. And spiritually speaking, Jim Rosemergy writes that unforgiveness is one of our greatest impediments to living in conscious oneness with God. I'm sure you've heard the saying, the Buddha said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. We know who gets burned, right? Ourselves. And Sig Paulson, one of our favorite quotes, said, not forgiving is like taking poison and hoping the other person dies. Religious, social, and political leaders throughout the ages have addressed the power of forgiveness, and Jesus is no exception. Again and again, he advocated forgiveness, often connecting it to prayer. He actually told us to pray like this: forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. This has been called the most misunderstood line in the Lord's Prayer. Traditionally, it's interpreted to mean that God withholds forgiveness until we forgive others. Sort of a quid pro quo, right? Well, that is simply not God's nature. Spirit is love, pure and unconditional. God is always true to God's spirit, but when we dwell in anger and resentment, we are not being true to our nature. Our hardened hearts actually block the gate of the kingdom of heaven within, making it hard for us to feel the love that is always there. Forgiving is expressing the love of God, and it's a love that dissolves anything unlike itself. So in Matthew 18, verses 21 to 22, we read, at that point, Peter got up the nerve to ask, Master, how many times do I forgive a brother or sister who hurts me? 7? Jesus replied, 7? Hardly. Try 70 times 7. Well, metaphysically, the number 7 represents completeness, and 70 signifies perfect spiritual order and power. So Jesus is saying here that there should be no limit or strings attached to our forgiveness, calling forth our spiritual powers. We are to forgive completely, totally. Bible scholar Ed Townley says, forgiveness is first and foremost a choice we make for ourselves. We must free ourselves from the negative, poisonous effects of our resentments so that we can embrace and express our spiritual power. We cannot be creative expressions of the infinite power and love of God and victims of other people at the same time. It's impossible. We have a choice. As spiritual beings, we can never really be damaged by others, although it seems like we are. In this human experience, however, we have a right, really a responsibility, to make loving choices that preserve our spiritual essence. It's just too precious for us to give away. So in the 1957 play, Raisin in the Sun, a poor black family inherits $10,000 from the father's life insurance. That was a lot of money in the day. The mother sees this as her chance to escape their tenement in Harlem to a little house in the country. And the very intelligent daughter sees it as her one chance to fulfill her dream and go to medical school. But the older brother begs for the money to go into business with his friend, promising he will make something of himself and give the family everything they want and deserve. So against their better judgment, the daughter and the mother give the son the money. And the plot thickens when the so-called friend skips town with the entire $10,000 and their future dreams. When the son comes back to face the family with that news, the daughter, his sister lashes out at him in anger and contempt. She screams every despicable name she knows, and when she finally pauses for a breath, her mother softly whispers, "Child, haven't I taught you to love your brother?" "Love him," the girl yells. "There's nothing left to love." The mother, through her own tears, replies, Child, has your heart ached today, not for what we lost, but for what he's been through? The time to love someone the most is when he can't believe in himself, because the world done whipped him so. When you measure somebody, measure him right, child. Measure him right. There's always something left to love. So, Nobel Peace Prize winner and chair of the South Africa Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, wrote the Book of Forgiving with his daughter, Reverend Mafo Tutu. Based on their work in South Africa, they realized that we are all, no matter what, we are all capable of healing and transformation. The Archbishop says, "I have often been asked how the people of South Africa were able to forgive the atrocities and injustices they suffered. In decades of protest and violence, much blood was shed in our long, treacherous march to freedom. It was feared that our transition to democracy would become a comprehensive bloodbath of revenge and retaliation. Instead, miraculously, we chose another future. We chose forgiveness. There are days," he says, "that I wish I could erase all the horrors I witnessed. It seems there is no end to the creative ways we humans can find to hurt each other, and no end to the reasons we use to justify that. However, in each one of us, there is an innate ability to heal any relationship that needs healing. Forgiveness is the journey we take to heal the broken hearts. It is how we return to wholeness." Forgiveness, then, is a gift we give ourselves to free ourselves from residual anger and pain. Yet, in the book, The Secrets of the Bulletproof Spirit, How to Bounce Back from Life's Hardest Hits, Azam Kamisha and Gillian Quinn say, "For some, forgiveness is like a dirty word. They are offended by the very idea of forgiving the one responsible for their pain." Some of us have probably felt that. Well, the thing is, our logical minds may resist forgiveness because it seems counterintuitive. However, Albert Einstein and our co-founder Charles Fillmore alike acknowledge the limits of the intellect. Charles Fillmore wrote, "The intellect is not wise. Wisdom is not its office." Karishma and Quinn say, when we can't let our minds boss us around. We have to be in charge. In forgiving, we must listen to the voice of spirit. Our spirit is very good at forgiving, but like peeling an onion, we have to be willing to peel the layers of resistance away that our mind has created. The authors say, choose to forgive because it is a highly efficient, turbocharged way of connecting with the happiness that lies beyond the heartache. They suggest we reframe forgiveness as an indulgence we deserve. I'm thinking it's something like chocolate for the soul. Think of it as an indulgence instead of an obligation to someone. Even when we forgive for ourselves, which can seem a little selfish, but the grace of it is when we forgive for ourselves, it impacts others and the world in profound ways. It has been said that to forgive is to set a prisoner free and find out that that prisoner was you. When we understand the common misconceptions about forgiveness, we can see it as an act of freedom from various sources. Now, we're going to look at what forgiveness is not. First of all, it is not repressing our feelings or pretending nothing happened. Instead, we make a conscious choice to end our suffering. It is not a sign of weakness. Actually, it's a sign of spiritual strength. It takes courage to let go of our resentments and become our own liberators. Unlike the old adage that we've heard, forgiveness is not forgetting. We really do not forget. We learn to look back with a different perspective, with spiritual eyes. Forgiveness has been called selective remembering, a conscious decision to focus on love and let the rest go. We also know that it's not condoning or excusing what happened. We've all heard it said, well, why should I let him or her off the hook? Have you heard that? I have. Kershma and Quinn say, in refusing to forgive, we hang our own hearts on the hook, and that's painful. In forgiving, we take back control of our lives. And finally, it is not eliminating consequences for the person or situation that hurt us. In one way or another, people usually live with the consequence of their actions. It's possible to report the person to the authorities, to seek justice, and still forgive. Forgiveness is not the same thing as justice. It doesn't preclude it, but it's not the same thing. It's really a higher law. So theoretically, I think we'd all have to admit that forgiveness sounds like a good idea, right? The only problem is there's no such thing as theoretical forgiveness. It's something each one of us has to do, and it's not easy. Experts say it starts with one thing, and that one thing is willingness. We have to be willing to set the intention and be willing to forgive. Now, while countless spiritual leaders write about the importance of forgiveness, I've just gone over a few of those, few talk about how to forgive. But in their book, the Tutus do talk about how to forgive. They give us a 4-step process to healing and forgiveness. You may remember these. We touched on them briefly during our study of the Book of Joy. So the first thing is telling the story. The Tutus say when you tell your story, it's like you're putting a puzzle back together again, one hesitant memory at a time. In the beginning, your memories might be fragmented and out of order and maybe hard even to articulate. But often the details come back in the retelling, especially when we find a compassionate listener to tell. And in telling the story, we begin to heal. Of course, it is important to choose who that listener is. It might be a trusted friend, a counselor, or a spiritual leader. Some people decide to tell their stories to the world, and that certainly takes courage. The second part of the process is naming the hurt. The authors say it may seem easier to dismiss a hurt, stuff it down, push it away, pretend it doesn't happen, to tell ourselves we shouldn't feel the way we feel. But no feeling is really wrong. It doesn't define us, but it's not wrong. A hurt is a hurt, a loss is a loss. When we bury our feelings in shame and silence, they find a way to express themselves. Remember Brene Brown's metaphor about the beach ball coming back up through the water and popping up when we least expect it. It has been said that we are as sick as the secrets we keep. The only way to heal the hurt is to give it voice. Now obviously, that doesn't mean we have to share our hurt with every person we meet. Some feel the need to share it with the one responsible for their pain. And the authors say that this can lead to empathy for the perpetrator and healing, but it can also backfire because the person may not even remember, care, or listen to you. The person might actually be deceased. And if you cannot or choose not to name your hurt to the perpetrator, then talk to someone you trust. Take it into prayer. You can also write a letter and then burn the letter when you finish with it. Becoming connected to your feelings and sharing them is the pathway to forgiveness. It is here at this stage that you ask yourself if you really want to carry the pain or if you want to free yourself from it. And again, the choice is ours. So the third stage is actually where we grant the forgiveness. Ultimately, this is about saying, writing, or feeling, I forgive you, and really meaning it. There's one thing I never did as a teacher, and that is I never brought two kids in who were in the middle of a fight and made them say they were sorry, because I knew that was meaningless. Being sorry has to come from the heart. Apologizing has to come from the heart. And sometimes it comes quickly, and sometimes it happens slowly, and that's just the way the process works. The authors say eventually we choose forgiveness because it is the way to escape the trap of endlessly remaining in the loop of telling our story and naming the hurts. Also, forgiving comes from our sense of shared humanity, the understanding that most people hurt others from their own needs and suffering. Regardless, a victim is in a position of weakness. In forgiving, we determine our own fate. We give up victimhood. And the final step is one I don't think a lot of people talk about, but it is renewing or releasing the relationship. This is a prayerful, sometimes painful decision. The authors say that if you do choose renewal, it's not a restoration of the old relationship, but rather a creative act to establish a new relationship. This is how we can harvest the fruits of forgiveness. Renewal may also, at times, not always, but at times, include recognizing what part we played, or maybe what part we didn't play in the relationship. Forgiving someone doesn't necessarily mean, however, that we have to keep him or her in our lives. The decision to release someone from our lives is sometimes the right decision, but we must do it in also releasing anger and resentment. Otherwise, we haven't forgiven at all, and the person continues to live rent-free in our heads. So if we're going to release somebody, we have to forgive, bless, and let them go. So next week, we're going to talk about the most important forgiveness of all. I bet some of you can guess what that is. But for now, let's take this message from the Tutus. I love this, what they say. All of us must walk our own paths at our own pace. All of us write our own books of forgiving every single day. What will be in your book? Will it be a story of hope and redemption, or misery and resentment? In the end, forgiveness will never be found in a book. You carry it in your own heart. You just need to look inside and discover it. Discover the power it has to change your life and change the world. So we're going to take this into meditation in a moment, but for now, let's affirm the truth about the one voice that is always calling us back to wholeness. Would you join me in affirming our statement of truth about God? Together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and at work in my life. God, the good, omnipotent, and so it is.
There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills the place. I've touched the hem of His garment. I can almost see His face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of His joy. I know without a doubt that I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
So now I invite you to become still, relax your body, close your eyes if that is comfortable, and take a deep breath, breathing into that sacred presence within. And as you exhale, release tension any place in your mind or body. Just let it go and feel in its place the one presence and one power that is greater than any earthly hurt, pain, or circumstance. Take another deep, cleansing breath and allow yourself to become centered in the pure, divine love you are. As you continue breathing in, breathing out, know that the very life of God is breathing you. In this consciousness, your soul knows that you are created in the image and likeness of God. God is love, you are love. Know that divine love and light is yours. You are whole and complete. This is the truth of your being. You live and move and have your being in oneness with perfect divine energy, always. Just feel for a moment the peace and joy that comes from this inner knowing. And now, open your heart to ask the Christ of your being if there is some person or situation that you wish to forgive in order to live and embrace a wholehearted life. If so, all you have to do this day is to set the intention, become willing to begin the process, knowing that the universe responds to our true intentions. And as you think about starting this process, anticipate telling your story. Telling your story with all its rawness, all its messiness, is how you get your dignity back. Prepare to ask yourself, with whom will I share my story? Or will I begin by writing my story in a journal or in a letter? Will I share it with the person who hurt me? Excuse me. The next stage in the process is naming the hurt. It is way too easy for us to stuff the hurt, push it down, pretend it doesn't happen. Feelings are not wrong, they just are. You are not your feelings, you are so much more. So now I invite you to get prepared to spend a few moments in the silence, where in the inner sanctuary of your soul, you can ask yourself, is some person or situation living rent-free in my soul? Is there someone or something I need to release? If so, bring that person or situation to your mind's eye. Open your heart and remember that all you have to do at this moment is set the intention to start the forgiveness process. Know that listening to the pure voice of Spirit, you will be guided every step of the way. Reflect about this for a few moments now in the silence. Now, whether you're in the sanctuary or at home, we come together as a greater church community to honor and bless one another on this path to individual and collective spiritual growth. We are one with each other and all humankind. For the love that supports and uplifts us always, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
He can turn the tides and calm the angry sea. He alone decides who writes a symphony. He lights every star that makes our darkness bright. He keeps watch all through each long and lonely night. He still finds the time to hear a child's first prayer. Anyone can call and always find him there. Though it makes him sad to see the way we live, he'll always say, I forgive. He knows every wish and can make dreams come true. He can paint the clouds and turn gray skies to blue. He alone knows where to find the rainbow's end. He alone can see what lies beyond the bend. He can touch a tree and turn the leaves to gold. He knows any lie that you or I have ever told. Though when things are wrong and it shapes the way we live, he knows we'll say, I forgive.
We're so blessed by our ministry of music here, are we not? So now we come, it's that time in our service that we come to pause, reflect, and give thanks for our many blessings. Your love offerings are so appreciated throughout this time, as are your notes of encouragement and your prayers. And we know and affirm that we are all one with divine source and with each other. So please join me in blessing our many gifts. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. So our service will end today with Daniel Nahmon's One Power. Afterwards, please wait for an usher to dismiss you. And if you wish to pray with the prayer chaplain, just let them know, and you may remain in your seat. So until next week, to all of you, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again here in the sanctuary or online on our Facebook page, website, or YouTube channel. And in Oneness, please know that we are always holding you in prayer.
One power, one power, one power, one power, one power, one power,
There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. Oh, it's the power of the love in you and me. One power, oh, one power, one power is what we are. One power, one power. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the